Next up, we'll be talking about the console variable setting that we can find by clicking on Settings and then Console Variables. The console variable setting will change any console variable that you designate when the render starts. So this is especially useful when you're trying to increase, for example, ray tracing sample counts or apply other quality settings that are just way too expensive for real-time preview in the editor. So by clicking on the little plus here, where it says Add Element, we're going to click here where it says Console Variable. We're not going to look at Start and End Console right now. So again, next to Console Variables, click on the little plus. And here is where you'll enter your actual console command and your desired value. So the console commands I want to show you right now are mainly useful when using ray tracing in your project, which, to be honest, you should be using if you want the best possible quality at this time. So Unreal Engine makes real-time ray tracing possible through the use of denoising techniques that may rely on temporal history. So when using high-resolution tiling or when disabling temporal anti-aliasing, you may need to adjust the following console variables for better results. Setting these variables to 0 will really help the denoiser converge better without temporal history. So in order to correctly add your console variables in the window here, we're going to click right here and either type in or paste your desired console variable. But be sure that you don't have the value you want here. For example, you absolutely need to enter it here where you have your desired value. So again, if you put the 0 right here, it's not going to work. Your console variable will not be used at render time. Now you might notice that you can only add one console variable at a time. This is normal. Don't worry, you're not going crazy. So to add a second one, you're going to have to hit the plus again. And you can't just add several of them. You're going to get a message saying you cannot add a new key to a map while the key with the default value exists. So we're going to add another console command here, the global illumination denoiser, add a third one, reflections denoiser, and a fourth one, shadow denoiser. All of these are set to 0. These are the ones that I use often, and you might want to consider disabling the following denoisers entirely if you have a high enough temporal or spatial sample count. High enough meaning 64 and above. It should go without saying that a value of 0 means it's off, and a value of 1 means it's true or on. Another one that I like to use often is r.screen% with a value of 200. This will super sample your render by essentially rendering at double the resolution. This is incredibly demanding on your GPU, but the results are that much better. And that's really all you need to know about the console variables tab. It's as simple as that. Simply click the plus and add your desired console command and its value. So you'll notice right here we have the start and end console commands. This list will execute the provided console command before the render starts and after the render ends. These are a bit more advanced, and you're unlikely to need this unless you need to trigger a specific event. So to recap this information-heavy module, spatial and temporal subsampling are absolutely worth the extra time to render if you can afford it. Spatial subsampling is best used for scenes with very little motion blur, where a high sharpness and very crisp detail is desired. Temporal subsampling is desired with scenes that do have motion blur, but it also has similar benefits as the spatial sampling. The high resolution tool is great for rendering extremely high resolution without the VRAM cost, but there are caveats to be aware of, such as not supporting screen space effects, auto exposure, and temporal anti-aliasing. Console variables can be added to execute only at render time, which can be useful for maintaining better performance in the viewport. Hopefully you're beginning to see why the Movie Render Queue is such a big deal, and why it is such a powerful implementation into the engine. The legacy sequencer renderer was great for its time, but this here is the new default for a reason.